Welcome everyone to our ongoing classes on Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, the 7 universal Noachite commandments. We are currently in the middle of studying from the Encyclopedia Talmudit, the Talmudical Encyclopedia, Krach Vav, Volume 6. And the entry is Ger Toshav. We are currently on page, or better yet, I should say, column, Reish Tzadik Tes, 299. About 5 lines down, the beginning of the second paragraph. And we are now going to discuss the wine that comes in contact with the Ger Toshav. Last class, we already basically explained the concept of wine and the non-Jew. But just briefly, let me again remind everyone, or for those that didn't hear the previous class, in general, wine in the Jewish religion is used for many rituals today as well, such as Kiddush at the beginning of Shabbos or Jewish festivals, Havdalah at the end of the festivals, at a chuppah, at a marriage ceremony, at the Pesach Seder, 4 cups of wine, and other occasions as well. In the times of the Holy Temple, and in the immediate future, as we're about to have the third and eternal temple, sacrifices are brought in the temple, on the altar. And there's also the libation of the wine, referred to as Nisuch Hayayin, the pouring, the libation of the wine. So wine plays a very important role in the Jewish religion. Now, likewise, lahavdil, wine is used in other religions when they offer sacrifices to whatever other gods they're worshiping and serving, unfortunately. And they too have a form of libation of wine. Therefore, wine touched by an idolater, an oived avodah zara, that wine becomes unfit not only for usage in the Holy Temple, in the Beis HaMikdash, it becomes unfit for consumption by a Jew. It becomes non-kosher, even though the ingredients are kosher, so to say. It's just grapes. It's fermented grape juice, which is now wine. But because it was touched by an idolater, that makes it unfit. Well, what about a regular non-Jew that we don't necessarily know him to be an oived avodah zara, an idolater, a goy, a nachri, stam, a regular plain old non-Jew? And what we're going to discuss now, what about the Ger Toshav, the non-Jew that formally in front of a Jewish tribunal, a Jewish court, took upon himself, accepted formally to keep the 7 Noachite commandments. So now, primarily, not just one of them, but primarily the commandment against worshiping anything other than God Almighty Himself. So categorically, the Ger Toshav denies avodah zara. So what about his wine? And that's where we're at. Yeinoi shel Ger Toshav, the wine of the Ger Toshav. Nechleku boi tanoim. There is a dispute, an argument between the Mishnaic sages. Chachamim soivrim asur b'shsia umutar bahana. The Chachamim, which as we've mentioned in previous classes, that's a term. It's a generic, general term used for the majority of the rabbis in a particular argument. If If you don't say their name, so you have Chachamim, and then the other opinion or opinions will be quoted by name, which generally means that the Chachamim are the majority. So the Chachamim, which literally means the wise men or the sages, they say that wine of a Ger Toshav is forbidden for a Jew to drink. However, it is permitted for a Jew to derive benefit from it. So that's a different level. You can derive benefit. For example, can sell it to other non-Jews. Can make money off of it. Can buy it and then sell it. Or can feed it to his animals, or to a non-Jew who he's obligated to sustain. If he has perhaps an eved, a servant or a slave, whatever the case may be, he can have shares and stocks in that wine and derive financial or any other type of benefit. But he cannot consume it, cannot drink it himself. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Oimer. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel disagrees with the Chachamim, and he says, Yeinoi yain nesech v'asur b'hana'ah. The wine of a Ger Toshav is considered yain nesech, which is the legal term for contaminated, forbidden wine of a non-Jew that is used or that was thought, intended by the non-Jew to pour as a libation for Avodah Zarah. So therefore, says Rabban Shimon Gamliel says, it's exactly as if it would be an idolater's wine, and it is forbidden even for drinking for the Jew. Now, the explanation, this begs an explanation, because, as we said, he categorically denies Avodah Zarah. Why do we not trust him? Why are we concerned that maybe he had a thought of using the wine for Avodah Zarah? That's not the case. We do not have such a concern. What we are concerned with is, being that he's a Ger Toshav and he's not a Jew, he is not as careful as a Jew is by guarding that wine of his and making sure that a regular non-Jew doesn't touch it. And therefore we're afraid and concerned that the wine of the Ger Toshav may have been unsupervised to the extent that a regular Nachri, a regular non-Jew, touched it. Therefore, Rabban Shimon Gamliel says that it's considered to be yain nesech, and it's forbidden for a Jew to drink. V'yesh oimrim mutar b'shisiya. And then there are some that say that it is permitted to drink. Halacha, what is the final ruling? What is the law? And this is brought down in Maimonides, the Rambam, as well as in the Shulchan Aruch, the Jewish Code of Law. So the final ruling is Asur b'shisiya umutar b'hana'ah, that indeed it's forbidden for a Jew to drink, however permitted for him to derive benefit. Shekivan she'enoi oived avodah zara ein bo yichshash nisuch, that since the owner of the wine, the Ger Toshav, is not an idolater, he does not worship avodah zara, therefore there's no concern of it being perhaps yain nesech. And the reason we're not allowed to drink it, if it's not yain nesech, so then it should be permissible to drink as well. The reason why the Jew can't drink it is, so to say, for a completely different reason, for coming from a totally different angle, which we've also discussed in the past. And that is because of the prohibition of intermarriage. Again, to remind you, we've learned this in the past, there are a number of things in the laws of kashrus, of dietary consumption of food, that the rabbis, in various different generations, years after the giving of the Torah at Sinai, 3,500 years ago, that the rabbis later instituted and prohibited certain things which biblically are permitted. And of course, in the Torah, in the Bible, it says that the Jewish people need to adhere to whatever the leading rabbis decree. So, of course, it's binding. And they had various reasons for their decrees. A number of things that the rabbis decreed forbidden is for the reason of chasanus, that we are afraid that, God forbid, a Jew should marry a Gentile. Now, it's forbidden for a Jew to marry a Ger Toshav as well, a daughter of a Ger Toshav, or for a Jewish girl to marry a Ger Toshav. That's forbidden. The person wants to be niskayer and be a Ger Tzedek, be a regular convert, and the person's Jewish. And then most Jews can marry that person. I don't want to get off subject, but the Kohanim can't. But be that as it may, a Ger Toshav is 100% not Jewish. And therefore, we don't want anything that can lead to intermarriage. And since wine is a substance which causes camaraderie, friendship, intimacy, and therefore they said, no, a Jew cannot drink the wine of a non-Jew, even of the highest status, highest level of a non-Jew, namely a Ger Toshav. Even that wine, now it's not forbidden to derive benefit because it's not avodah zarah. We're not concerned. Basically, a Jew cannot derive any benefit from avodah zarah. Nothing, no benefit from it. This is not avodah zarah, it's a Ger Toshav's wine. But because of chasanus, similar to other decrees, for example, pas nachri, bread baked by a non-Jew without any participation of the Jew in the baking process, and not for commercial use, but personal use, even if it's 100% kosher, the rabbis decreed that a Jew may not eat pas nachri. And the reason is, same reason, intermarriage. Shenisrachek mehem, that we the Jews should distance ourselves from them, kidei sheloi nover lihischatein bohem, so that we don't come to intermarry with them. Kederech shasres shamnoi, similar to another decree that they initially made, and that is the oil of a goy. Oil manufactured by a non-Jew. Olives that were crushed, squeezed, pressed to extract the oil. That oil, initially, the Chachamim, the rabbis, decreed that a Jew cannot use oil manufactured by a non-Jew. And it's the same reason. It's because of intermarriage. However, afterwards, they undid their decree. The rabbis then removed the decree, and therefore, by Jewish law, today, it is absolutely 100% permissible for a Jew to use kosher oil from a non-Jew, as long as he knows that the ingredients are kosher. That's a separate issue. So it has to have proper supervision, but the Jew does not have to be involved in the manufacturing of it. Oil that's coming just out of kosher things, whether it's olives or something else, so long as it's not a derivative of a non-kosher animal or non-kosher fats or anything like that, and it has no ingredients that are non-kosher, no problem. But the original decree was because of intermarriage, same thing here with the wine of a Ger Toshav. And for that reason, the wine of a Ger Toshav is permissible for the Jew to derive benefit. It was only the decree against drinking it that the rabbis decreed so that it doesn't lead to mingling and marrying the daughter of a Ger Toshav. But the prohibition of deriving benefit from the wine of a non-Jew, which they also prohibited, that is only because of the concern of avodah zarah. So therefore, by a Ger Toshav, we're not concerned. So, to sum it up, there are two parts to the prohibition of a Jew using the wine of a non-Jew. And they have two different reasons behind them. One is consumption, and one is benefit of any sort. The reason why a Jew may not consume the wine of a non-Jew is because it may lead to intermarriage. The reason why the Jew may not derive benefit from the wine of a non-Jew is because we are concerned that it may have been intended and designated in thought by the idolater for idolatry. And therefore, Ger Toshav, reason A applies, therefore no drinking, it's still forbidden. Reason B does not apply, therefore no problem, and you may derive benefit. And even though even though the Jewish law is that a non-Jew that does not worship Avodah Zarah is not an idolater, and he did not accept upon himself the 7 Ochad commandments. But he's not an Avodah Zarah. He's not an idolater. We know his religion, or what he does. He does not worship anything other than God. So his wine is not forbidden for a Jew to have benefit from it. However, so how come by a Ger Toshav we're being stricter? It doesn't make any sense. So he says that's only if it's a national thing. Meaning, individually, for every individual, it will still be forbidden for the Jew to derive benefit. However, if the entire nation that the non-Jew belongs to is known that the religion and the nation that he belongs to is not an idolatrous one, therefore, it would be permitted even to derive benefit from their wine, such as the Muslims. Categorically, Muslims are not worshipping anything other than the one and only God Almighty, creator of heavens and earth, the one who gave us the Torah. Whatever wrong they're doing, whatever mistakes they have, and whatever they have but one thing is for certain, we categorically rule that Islam is not Avodah Zarah. Therefore, all of these Arabs that are Muslims, their wine is permitted for a Jew to derive benefit from it. But if there is an individual, even a Ger Toshav, who comes from a nation, from a religion, or his country at the time where he's part of, are idolaters, then in order for his wine to be permissible bahana, from deriving benefit, he must formally accept upon himself to keep the 7 mitzvahs. It's insufficient that we know this individual to be one who is not an idolater. And if he is lacking any one of the 7, not just the one of Avodah Zarah, if he doesn't keep any one of the 7, that already makes him not any type of a Ger Toshav, and therefore his wine, the wine that he touches, will be forbidden for the Jew to derive benefit from. Because he's still considered part of his nation. He didn't exclude himself categorically from his nation by accepting formally upon himself to keep the 7. So for instance, one of the 7 is the prohibition against murder. So let's say he says, I keep all 6. No blasphemy, no idolatry, no adultery. He doesn't eat limb from a live animal, live being. He makes sure to establish courts of law. And the only one that he doesn't accept is not to murder. He doesn't steal, won't steal a penny. He keeps 6 out of the 7. And the one that he's not keeping has nothing to do with idolatry. He just doesn't accept the prohibition against murder. For instance, he promotes, or he may even be doing it just for his for his livelihood. He's a doctor or what have you, and he performs abortions, God forbid. Well, and he's a murderer. So he is ready to keep all 6 out of 7. And avodah zarah, idolatry, and the prohibition against blasphemy, he's keeping. So what's the problem? The problem is because he comes from an idolatrous nation, and in order for him to be able to, by Jewish law, categorically make himself, separate himself, and be an exception so that we can use his wine even to benefit from it, he needs to accept all 7, no less. Or, alternatively, a non-Jew that didn't accept upon himself the 7, but he doesn't worship avodah zarah. So again, then his wine will not be forbidden for a Jew to have benefit. And the only reason why Ger Toshav is mentioned, to go to the other extreme as far as drinking is concerned. Even the Ger Toshav, which as we said is the highest form of a non-Jew, he actually accepted upon himself to keep all 7, and when Ger Toshav was able to be kept and implemented, he had rights in the land of Israel, as we've studied in previous classes. Even that person, even at the time of Ger Toshav, when the Jubilee year was in effect, and the Jewish community was obligated to support him and help him and sustain him, and he has rights in the land of Israel, and so forth. Even that person, when he touches wine, which a Jew may certainly derive benefit from that wine, still can't drink it. Which means to say that nowadays, where there is no, according to the Rambam, there is no technical Ger Toshav, but what about the wine of a Sheva Mitzvahs abiding Ben Noyach, someone who is ready to accept them, and for argument's sake, someone who accepted upon himself in front of 3 chaverim, 3 Torah scholars, to form somewhat of a tribunal, and he tells them, I hereby accept upon myself to keep all 7. And we know him to be such a person because we've known him for years. And it wasn't just a verbal acceptance. He's actually keeping all 7 to the best of our knowledge. So the wine that he touches, unlike the wine of the regular, let's say Christian or Catholic, the wine that he touches is still forbidden for me to drink. However, I may benefit from it, as opposed to the wine touched by an idolater, where I can't even benefit. So, practically speaking, the wine of a Jew, he still needs to be careful when having non-Jews around. And therefore, what many Jews are careful to do, as we mentioned in the previous class, we get wine which is mivushal, which means it was somewhat, to a certain degree, cooked, which disqualifies the wine because of the quality from being able to use as a sacrificial wine. So we wouldn't use it in the temple on the altar, and likewise, others wouldn't use it for their idolatrous usage, and therefore, that would be okay. So if the non-Jew touches that wine, it's still kosher, and the Jew may drink it as well. So, therefore, Jews should still be careful with wine, even though all the non-Jews that they're interacting with or that are guests at their Shabbos tables are observant Sheva Mitzvahs, non-Jews, B'nai Noach. Or, if I may, Ger Toshav wannabes. Next, we're on the bottom of Reish Tzadik Tes, 299. Miyachtim yain etzel ger toshav. It is permitted for a Jew to put aside, to designate wine with a ger toshav. Avol ein mafkidim etzloi. However, it's not allowed to deposit it with him, to give it to him, to watch without the Jew around. Miyachtim hu sheYisrael yochel anichei bechanusoi ad sheyelech kedei mil v'yoser. What is exactly the definition, the difference between miyachadim and mafkidim, of putting with him and depositing it? Miyachadim, which is permitted with a ger toshav, means you can leave him alone, unsupervised, in the store or in your winery, the amount of time that the Jew can walk a distance called a mil, and even a bit more. And a mil is 2,000 amos, and it's, depending on which opinion you follow, it's less than a mile. Actually, a bit more than half a mile. And the walking distance of a mil, halachically, there are different opinions, anywhere from 18 to 24 minutes. So the Jew can step out of his store for about a half hour, or go a walking distance of a half hour. And we are not concerned that in such a relatively short period of time, we're not afraid that the Ger Toshav will switch it with his wine. Remember, the wine of the Jew can drink. The wine of the Ger Toshav, the Jew can't drink and only derive benefit. We're not concerned that maybe the Ger Toshav would switch the wine for his own wine, thus causing the Jew to sin by drinking the wine or selling it to a Jew to drink, when in fact it's forbidden for a Jew to drink. We're not worried about that. And likewise, we're not concerned. We're not afraid that maybe a different non-Jew, who's not a ger toshav, who's, at least we're worried that he's an idolater, he may touch the wine. And there's no Jew supervising it. We're not afraid of that either. Because since the ger toshav derives no benefit by allowing a regular non-Jew to touch this wine that he's working in the store with, he won't allow him to do that because he gains nothing. So even if we're concerned that, look, people are selfish or people may not always pass a temptation test, here there's no reason to be concerned that the ger toshav is tempted. What's he going to gain by this non-Jew walking in from the street by allowing him to touch the wine? He gains nothing. Therefore, when the Jew comes back to the shop, all the wine that he left alone with the ger toshav is fine. Now, what about the ger toshav himself? Maybe he touched it. We're not, and then we said, then you can't drink it either. You could derive benefit, but once the ger toshav touches it, then I can't drink it. So why aren't we afraid that the ger toshav himself touched it? We're not afraid of that either, because since he's not an idolater, he won't touch it, and he's not going to use it for any libations. And this rule that we said, that you're allowed to leave it alone with him for this short period of time, even applies in a city that the majority of the people are idolaters. It's not like, well, this is a city where most people are Jewish, or most of the non-Jews are Sheva Mitzvahs observant. No. Even if most of the people in the city are non-Jews that are idolaters, the same rule still applies. You left it alone with a ger toshav, that's fine, no concerns. But on the other hand, to deposit it with a ger toshav, meaning to let him take it into his property and he's going to watch it for an extended period of time, that is forbidden, even if it's a city where the majority of the people are Jewish, are observant Jews. And if it's for a long time, as opposed to this short period of time of about a half hour. But if it's for a long, extended time, I say, here, watch this wine for me, I'll be back in a week. Because we are concerned that perhaps the Ger Toshav will switch this wine with his own wine, and his own wine is forbidden for the Jew to drink. Even after the fact, which in rabbinic terminology, in Jewish law, the term is called b'di'evet, which means after the fact. So there are many things which are not permitted, but after the fact, it's all right, it's permitted. There's that l'chatchila means to begin with, in the best possible scenario, the way we want it from the very onset. B'di'evet means after the fact. In this case, even b'di'evet, even after the fact, it still is not permissible. So if a Jew left wine in the hands of a Ger Toshav for an extended period of time, or he sent it with the Ger Toshav, and the delivery was really supposed to just take a few minutes, but it ended up taking an extended period of time, or if the Jew left his house wide open, the door is open, in a courtyard of a non-Jew. So let's say in an apartment building, and the Jew left his door wide open for an extended period of time, unsupervised. So we don't know, somebody could have walked in. So in those cases, the wine then becomes forbidden for the Jew to drink. Because if there's a real concern, any real concern of exchange or of forgery of any sort, all the goyim are equal. And just because this is a Ger Toshav, who's the highest status of a non-Jew, he is still just as suspected of forgery or things like that. Hoyil, since v'nasa yain birshusam, the wine was in his possession, nesar b'shasi al kol panim. Any way you look at it, it became forbidden for the Jew to consume it, to drink it, because it was actually in the possession of a non-Jew. Let it be a Ger Toshav, makes no difference. V'yesh mefarshim, and then you have other commentators that they explain she'ein mafkidim mipnei she'enoi makpid al maga nochre nichnas lebeisoi. The reason why it's forbidden to deposit wine with the Ger Toshav is because he, the Ger Toshav, is not so scrupulous, and he's not going to be really careful about not allowing a Nochri, a non-Jew, to touch it. He won't be careful. The non-Jew walks into his house, and he's not going to be all scared and say, oh, no, I have that Jewish wine over there. Even though his own wine, he is careful. The Ger Toshav will not let a regular non-Jew, a regular idolater, touch his wine. But if he's got a Jew's wine in his possession, he won't be as careful. Because his own wine is permitted for the Jew to derive benefit. So he wants to be able to tell the Jew in all honesty that this wine of mine was not touched by any idolater, and therefore I can sell it to you, and then you can make a profit and sell it to someone else. I know you can't drink it because it's coming from me. Whereas if it's the Jew's wine, he's not going to be so concerned because it's the Jew's wine, so he doesn't care, and he'll let the non-Jew, the idolater, touch it. Therefore, but nonetheless, he's still not careful about the Jew's wine. Or alternatively, he's not careful about his own wine either. His own wine, he's not going to be careful not to let a regular non-Jewish idolater touch. And according to them, they only permitted wine of a Ger Toshav for a Jew to have benefit when it's known that a non-Jew didn't touch it. If somehow we know, like there's a Jewish supervision, that the wine that was manufactured by the Ger Toshav, or the wine that's in the Ger Toshav's possession, to the best of our knowledge, no guy touched besides the Ger Toshav. Then they allowed us to derive benefit from it. But what does it mean that we are permitted to put it with the non-Jew, not as a deposit, but to leave it with him? Because in such a short period of time, like we said, about half hour or less, we're not concerned that maybe in that period of time a Nachri touched it. Because the non-Jews are not accustomed to walking into the Jews' winery. So he has this non-Jew Ger Toshav working for him, but it's a Jewish-owned store that sells kosher wine. The non-Jews generally don't buy wine there. And if he himself touched the Ger Toshav, that wouldn't make it forbidden. Because again, what he touches is permitted for the Jew to drink. And then yet there are others that hold that also the touch of a Ger Toshav will make it forbidden. Just as his wine is forbidden, so to his touching our wine will also make it forbidden. Because anyone whose wine is forbidden for us to drink, so is the wine that he touches. And that's all part of the decree that they made because of their daughters, because of intermarriage. So they took it to the extent that if I'm not allowed to drink the wine of a person who manufactured it, so therefore if he touches my wine, I also can't drink it. And as we said, this is also forbidden by a Ger Toshav because we're concerned with intermarriage there. The only thing is, we're not concerned, we're not worried that maybe the Ger Toshav touched our wine, the Jewish wine, that's in our home. We're not worried about that. We don't take it to that extent. But if we know that he did touch it, that indeed would make it forbidden. How about if the Ger Toshav touched it accidentally? We saw him touch it, but he didn't mean to. Or he somehow, the barrel of wine, he gave it a touch or something. Then that would be permissible for the Jew to even drink, according to this opinion, because he didn't mean to touch it. Because just as when it comes to a real idolater, so the rabbis, they were lenient about deriving benefit from it if the idolater touched it by mistake. So if an idolater touches wine of a Jew, that wine is forbidden not only for consumption, but even to derive benefit. However, if the idolater accidentally touched the wine, so then it's forbidden to drink, but then the Jew is permitted to have derived benefit. So now take that to the step of the Ger Toshav, which is a step higher. So if the Ger Toshav accidentally, unintentionally touched the wine, not only is it permissible for benefit, that's always the case, even if he purposely touched it. So in this case, it would be permitted for the Jew to drink, because the Ger Toshav didn't mean to touch it. Even though the touch of the idolater, if he touches it purposely, will make it forbidden, even to derive benefit. So by the non-Jew who's not an idolater, whatever he touches purposely makes it forbidden to drink. So then the rabbis were lenient if he touched it accidentally, then it should be permitted even for drinking. And he brings down in the footnote 180 that in the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah, which is the Ashkenazic Jewry's ruler, he rules that the touch of a non-Jew, if it was accidental, it's permissible to drink. It doesn't have to be a Ger Toshav. And he says because we consider them not to be idolaters. The Goyim around today are not Ovdei Avodah Zarah, he says, and therefore, if they touched it accidentally, it has this ruling of a Ger Toshav who touched it, that it should even be permissible for the Jew to drink. V'yesh mefarshim atam shein mafkidim etzloi lizman merube shema yemru shoyse Yisrael shoyse meyeno shel Ger Toshav kishiyeruhu shu mevi yain mibeisoi v'yenoi asur b'shsiyah. And some give a different reason altogether. And they say the reason why you cannot deposit wine with a Ger Toshav is because it will look like, we're afraid that the onlooker will say that this Jew is drinking from the wine of the Ger Toshav, because they're going to see that he's bringing wine from his house. I mean, the guy left with him for a week or more. So now it's going to be brought from the Ger Toshav's house to the Jew, or the Jew's going to go there to pick it up. So it'll look like the Jew is drinking wine from Ger Toshav. People won't realize, oh, this is the Jew's wine that he just left with him as a deposit to watch for a while. They won't realize that. So that's the reason, some say, because of what it's going to look like. And we know that a Jew can't drink wine of a Ger Toshav, even though this wine is not of a Ger Toshav. That's the reason. Page Shin Aleph, 301, column 301, at the top. Zion, Begolus. Number 7 has the subdivision in the entry of Ger Toshav with regards to exile. It's going to be self-explanatory, but I just want to give a very brief explanation or introduction. You may be familiar with this biblical law. It's right there in the Chumash. And that is, if a Jew in the land of Israel accidentally killed another Jew, the classic case, Jew A is chopping wood, and he has this big, heavy axe that he's chopping wood. The head of the axe got loose, and as he raises his heavy axe to gain the strength to be able to get all the power to be able to come down hard, the head of the axe went flying off the handle. So the Jew literally went flying off the handle, didn't lose his temper, but it went off the handle, and that big, heavy piece of metal accidentally hit someone and killed them. Totally unintentional. So a lot of details, but basically, Jew A, who killed Jew B, is to run away to a city of refuge, of which there were 3 in the land of Israel proper, and there were 3 on the eastern side of the Jordan River, total of 6, plus all of the cities of the Levium, the Levite cities, also would serve the same function as being an Ir Miklat, a city of refuge. And there's a dual purpose for this Jew to be in that city. On the one hand, it's a punishment. He needs some form of atonement. Through him, a person was killed. It's a terrible thing. So it's not the death penalty, of course not. It was unintentional. But he needs atonement. So he's exiled to that city. He's not in prison, but he has to stay confined in a city. And the second reason is it's for protection. Because the rule in the Torah is that the Goyel Hadam, the avenger of the blood of the deceased, of the one killed, the relatives, have a right to kill the one who accidentally killed their relative, so long as he's not in one of these cities of refuge. They dare not kill him in a city of refuge. If they do, then they are murderers, and they can be put to death for murder. But if this person was caught outside of a city of refuge, he stepped foot out of the city of refuge, they can kill him. And they did nothing at all that's wrong. That's what the Torah says. That's the classic case, Jew A, Jew B, and so forth. Then the Talmud discusses, which is what the encyclopedia here is going to bring down. What about Ger Toshav? Yisrael shahara Ger Toshav bishkaga. A Jew that accidentally killed a Ger Toshav. Now remember, the Ger Toshav lives in the land of Israel, and the Jewish community is taking care of him. And the Jew is there chopping wood, and the head of the axe goes flying off, and it flew some 50 feet, and it hit this innocent Ger Toshav and killed him. Einoi goyle. The Jew does not go to a city of refuge, meaning he does not get the punishment, and he does not need the protection of the city of refuge. Shenemar, and we know this because the verse that speaks about this mitzvah states, Vasher Yavoy Es Rei Ehu. When it speaks about the classical case that they're both in the forest and this one comes to chop wood, so it says that he will come to his Rei Ehu, his colleague, his brother, meaning that term means his fellow Jew. Prat leger Toshav. To the exclusion, this word is excluding the Ger Toshav. She'ena goyle al yodoy, that the Jew does not go to exile vis-a-vis the Ger Toshav, killing the Ger Toshav. She'ena reyehu, she'ena shaykh b'mitzvahs, because he's not his reyehu, he's not his fellow, because he is not part of the person who, he's not part of the group that has to keep all the mitzvahs. So therefore, he's not reyehu. Could be his good friend, could be his neighbor. That's not, in the language of the Torah, called reyehu. And elsewhere, the sages learn out from a logical explanation, not just from a word in the Torah which says reyehu, but from a logical argument, which is another form of studying, that if a Jew killed a Ger Toshav accidentally, he does not go to Golus. He does not exile. Now, that being the fact, we take it the next step. The Rishonim, the early post-Talmud codifiers, have an argument about this. Some say that he does go to Golus. He does get exiled. Since we are not allowed to kill a Ger Toshav purposely, and we, the Jewish community, are obligated to support him financially, so therefore the Jew does have an atonement by going to exile for killing him. Because he didn't kill a random human being, even though it wasn't a fellow Jew, but he killed a person that we're obligated to support. So therefore, if the Jew does go to the city of refuge, he gets an atonement, just like if the Jew would have killed a Jew. Just as the Jew would get atoned and forgiven for killing another Jew. And others say, no, he does not go to exile. Not just that he doesn't have to go, but there's no need and no point. So we actually have a dispute as to whether he could go to Golus. Even though we said he's not obligated to go, but the question is, does he need any form of atonement? And would it be a nice thing or a good thing for that Jew to go to Golus? Some say yes, some say no. What about the flip case, the opposite? Ger Toshav Shorag Yisrael. Ger Toshav killed a Jew, Bishgaga, accidentally. Einoi Goyle. The Ger Toshav also does not go to the city of refuge. Shene'emar, because we have the verse that states, V'hoyu lachem he'arim lemiklat, that these cities shall be for you for absorption or for refuge. Lachem v'loy lageirim, for you and not for the geirim. And over here when we say geirim, we mean Ger Toshav. Avalhu neherag. But what does happen to the Ger Toshav who accidentally killed a Jew? He's put to death. Even though it was an accident. No one is claiming that he did it on purpose. It was a total accident. There are witnesses. Adam Muad Loilam. We have a rule. A man is always considered responsible for any damage that he causes. Even if he's sleeping. If a man is sleeping, and in his sleep he rolled over and he broke someone's property. Someone had some very precious, delicate things, and the guy said, I'm going to take a nap right next to it. So that was on one bench, he took a nap on the other bench, and in his sleep, he was not in control. He just tossed and turned, and he accidentally, totally accidental, he broke those things. He's obligated to pay. The only case is if he went to sleep and they weren't there, and then while he was sleeping, the owner put them down next to him. That's a different case, because what he wanted to do, he wanted to check before he went to sleep, he did. Right, so that's different. But anyhow, we say a person is always liable and responsible for their acts. So the fact that if a Jew accidentally killed another Jew, he doesn't get penalized, doesn't get punished and killed, that's the novelty, not the other way around. Just like if someone accidentally steals someone's property, of course they have to reimburse him. If someone accidentally burns down someone else's field, what do you mean accidentally? Yeah, you have to pay. So same thing would apply with murder or any capital offense. So therefore, the Ger Toshav, we're following the regular rules of logic, that a person is always obligated for his actions. The fact that if the Jew killed accidentally, he doesn't get killed, but rather he runs to the city of refuge, that's a special mitzvah with regards to the Jew. And even according to the opinion that says that a ben Noach who transgresses any one of the seven accidentally does not get killed. Some say he does, some say he doesn't. So even according to those that say that if a ben Noach transgressed any one of his seven accidentally, he's not put to death. The kolshkin Ger Toshav shekil avshav mitzvahs. Certainly a Ger Toshav who formally accepted upon himself to keep the seven. Everyone agrees that in that case, if a Ger Toshav kills someone accidentally, and it's an accident which is very far from being negligence. See, sometimes you can have an accident, but the person could have been more careful. There's different levels. In general, there's 2 or 3 levels, but you can even break it down into more levels. There's something which was totally out of the person's control, no matter what, they could not have avoided it. And then you have things which are accidents. And then you have an accident which is close to being, unavoidable. Then you have an accident which you could have avoided had you been more careful. And then you have, of course, negligence. And then you have, of course, doing it intentionally. So, when do they say that if a Ger Toshav completely accidentally kills someone, that he doesn't get killed for that? That's only if he killed a friend of his, meaning a fellow non-Jew. But if he killed a Jew, even a Ger Toshav, and it was totally unintentional, he still gets put to death. Because because even for a Jew, the blood of the killed person is not allowed for him to forgive, to forego. And therefore, even the Jew killed accidentally, the Torah might allow him to get killed. Meaning, the relative who's the avenger of the blood could still kill him. What do you mean? The guy killed accidentally. Good, so we don't put you to death formally, but you're still open to be killed. So if a Jew who killed accidentally, a fellow Jew, might still get killed legally, so certainly the Ger Toshav is put to death. Therefore, a Ben Noyach, or even a Ger Toshav, is put to death for killing a Jew accidentally. And then yet there is an opinion amongst the Rishonim that if a Ger Toshav killed a Jew accidentally, he does go to the city of refuge. Ger Toshav, Shara Ger Toshav b'shoigeg. What happens if a Ger Toshav killed a fellow Ger Toshav? A Ger Toshav killed a fellow Ger Toshav by mistake, accidentally. Goyle, then he goes to Galbus. So here's a case where you could have a Ger Toshav in a city of refuge. We just said before, according to one opinion, if the Ger Toshav killed a Jew accidentally. Now we're saying if a Ger Toshav kills a Ger Toshav, then he goes to Galbus. Shenamar, because the verse states, Livnei Yisrael, Vilager, Vilaseshav Beseicham. That this mitzvah of the cities of refuge is for the children of Israel, for the Ger, and for the Toshav amongst them. Very clear. So it does apply. When? Not if the Ger Toshav killed a Jew, according to most opinions, but if the Ger Toshav killed the Ger Toshav. When does this apply? If the case was that in such a case, if a Jew would have killed a fellow Jew, he would have gone to exile. If the exact same case between Ger Toshav and Ger Toshav would have been between Jew and Jew, then the Jew would have gone to exile. But if the Ger Toshav killed the fellow Ger Toshav in a manner that had the Jew killed the fellow Jew like that, he would be exempt from exile, because it's not even called accidental, but it's even more removed than that. Sorry, the other way. Because it's too close to being negligence, even though it wasn't on purpose, but it's not considered an absolute accident, and therefore he doesn't get the opportunity to go to exile. Therefore, in such a case, if a Ger Toshav kills a Ger Toshav, he's put to death, because he's a murderer, even though he didn't do it intentionally. So the Jew who killed a fellow Jew, and it was shoygeg, accidental, close to mazid, on purpose, then he actually gets no punishment down here, because he can't be put to death because it wasn't on purpose, and he does not get to have the atonement of going to exile because it was too close to being intentional. And in that case, the Ger Toshav doing that, the Ger Toshav would be put to death. This is what I was saying. How about if it's a case where if the Jew killed the other Jew, he wouldn't go to exile, but for the other extreme, not because it's too close to being intentional. It's because it's so far from being accidental, it's not even that. It's more far removed. It's completely out of his control. And he wouldn't go to exile. So in such a case, Ger Toshav, Shara Ger Toshav, Afal Pater. Then the Ger Toshav is also exempt. The Ger Toshav does not have to go to exile if it was such an extreme, not just accident, but totally out of his control. However, there is a dispute amongst the Talmudic sages. Rav Chisda said, see, when he takes the axe, so there's picking it up, and then there's pulling it down. Mm-hmm. So raising it is called derech aliyah, on the way up, and then the thing can fly off or hit somebody in the head. But then there's coming down, and that's called derech yirida. She'yisrael goyle afhu goyle. So if it's a case like that, so the Jew goes to exile, so would the Ger Toshav. But if he killed him on the way up, in that case the Jew does not go to exile. Ger Toshav ne'erag, so then the Ger Toshav gets killed. He doesn't go to exile, so he gets killed. The Jew gets nothing. The Ger Toshav would get killed. Because according to Rav Chisda, going the way up is close to being negligent. Coming down, that's a real accident. But when you're taking this very heavy tool and you're lifting it up like this, you need to be more careful. But how about if he killed because he thought he's allowed to kill? He didn't know that you're not allowed to kill. No one taught him that. He was absent that day when they learned that in Sheva Mitzvahs. So if he killed because he thought it was permitted, anusu upatur, then he is exempt from going to the city of refuge, because that's even less than an accident, because he didn't even know. V'Rava Omar, and Rava said, he argues with Rav Chisda, this is the second Talmudic sage, that if the Ger Toshav killed the Ger Toshav on the way up with the axe, he's exempt from going to the city of refuge because of the logic of the Kal V'chomer. And this is how it goes. Uma derech yirida, she'Yisrael goyle, if on the way down, if it would have been a Jew, he would be exiled. Ger Toshav dai loy begolus. So for Ger Toshav, exile is sufficient. Derech aliyah she'Yisrael patur. So now, if it's on the way up, that where the Yisrael is exempt, hu yehei neherag. So the Ger Toshav should be killed. Because in his opinion, derech aliyah is not that it's closer to being intentional. On the contrary, he says the way up is more out of his control. It's more of a complete accident, not just unintentional. But if he killed because he thought you're permitted to kill, then he's put to death. Why? Because if someone says that something forbidden is permissible, that is close to intentional. That's close to negligence. Because he should know the information. Halacha kerava, and the halacha indeed is like the second opinion, like Rava. V'chein im chashav Ger Toshav shezeh behema, oy goy, v'nim ger Toshav, harei ze koimer mutar. Likewise, if the Ger Toshav thought that it's an animal that he was killing, or he thought that it was a goy who's not a Ger Toshav, and then afterwards, lo and behold, it's a fellow Ger Toshav. So that's like saying that it's permissible. And therefore it would be the same argument. Those that say that if you thought something was permissible, you didn't know that it's forbidden. So the ones that say that then he's exempt, same thing over here. And those that say, which is what we follow, that if someone says they think something forbidden is permitted, it's still called negligence because they should have known. Same thing over here. So therefore, if he killed a Ger Toshav thinking that it was an animal, he still has to go to be exiled. Halacha shaf ze karv lemezidu v'chayev. And therefore the halacha here is that this too is close to being intentional, and therefore he is liable. But what happens if there was in front of him an animal and a person? And he meant to kill the animal. It's a real animal. He didn't mistake a person for an animal. There's an animal and a person, and he was aiming to kill the animal. And he killed the Ger Toshav by mistake. Then it's not like he thought it was permissible, and therefore everybody would agree in that case that he would be exempt from exile, because he meant to kill an animal, and that is permissible for him. It was an accident that it killed a person. Eved shehorag Ger Toshav b'shegaga. An Eved, a non-Jewish Eved Knani, which is in many ways considered to be Well, he's property of a Jew, so he's he's closer to being a Jew than anything else. So if he killed a Ger Toshav by mistake, an accidental, or the Ger Toshav who accidentally killed the Eved, then they do. In both cases, the one who killed does go to exile. And even though the Eved has the same halachic status as a Jew, and therefore, if a Jew killed an Eved, he does exile to the city of refuge. And if an Eved killed a Jew, he does go to the city of refuge. Mikol Mokim, nonetheless, Einoi ki Yisrael Gamur, but he's not like an absolute Jew, this Eved. Shleigle Ger Toshav al Yodoi. And therefore the Ger Toshav, if he would be a Yisrael, then the Ger Toshav wouldn't go to Golus. Like we said, that if the Ger Toshav killed a Jew, he does not go to the city of refuge. But in this case, if the Ger Toshav killed the Eved, he does, Kishem Sheina Goyla al Yidei Yisrael, just as he does not go to Golus. So if the Ger Toshav killed an Eved, he is exiled. All right, we do have one more piece left in this Ger Toshav, and that is Bizman Hazeh. That would be maybe very practical. It's referring to nowadays. So we'll have to leave that for the next class. In the meantime, wishing everyone well, and of course make sure to abide by all of the 7 mitzvahs, the 7 universal Noachide commandments. Keep them, serve God, and do your best and do your share to bring about the coming and the revelation of Mashiach